Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Matt and Shane Show with me, Matt Goddard from the Boxing Locker, and my good friend
Shane, Crowley Boxing
from,
Club,
there we go.
Sparta, North Carolina. What's going on, guys?
Today we've got another sort of special. We'll cover some other bits as well, but sort of special here. We're just going to have a chat about the two very recent massive fights. That is Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Bud Crawford, and of course Naoya Inoue versus the guy whose name I can't really say, Akhmadaliev, who yeah,
I think
everybody
he'll
was
forgive
touting
us.
to be the man to beat him, I believe.
I hope he'll forgive us for possibly pronouncing.
Akhmadaliev. I'm sure it's Akhmadaliev, something like that. Anyway, it's very hard to pronounce. I'm not up to date with my Eastern European pronunciations or Russian, Eastern Bloc. Anyway, how are you, Shane? You good?
Not bad, not bad at all. I've got a lot of work going on, changing gyms soon. Got some big stuff going on for me. So I'm curious, you got to watch the fight, Terrence versus Alvarez. How did you see it going? Did it go to your plan? We talked about it a little bit. What did you think of Bud's performance, and what did you think of Canelo's?
Well, I think I deserve a little sort of shoulder pop because I absolutely smashed the prediction. The only thing that didn't play out how expected was that I thought Canelo would come on stronger, and actually Crawford, if anything, Crawford came on stronger and was better as it got down the stretch, even though Canelo was pushing it. Yeah, it played out as expected. I think the cards were a bit strange. I don't
Right?
think there was sort of any real kind of enormous success for Canelo. I think other than having a good fifth round, I don't think he really had any clear wins for himself. I think Bud took the ninth or tenth off a little bit because Bomac in the corner told him to get back to his boxing and try not to engage. But otherwise, a clear win for Crawford across all areas of the fight. Really, there wasn't sort of anywhere that Canelo dominated.
I have been seeing a lot of talk online. Before the fight, I saw a lot of people saying Canelo early, or a lot of people were saying Canelo before 6. I saw somebody say they predicted Canelo stoppage in round 4 due to the fact that Bud was coming up 2 weight classes. But if you've been following Terrence, if you know about his work ethic, his demeanor, I really wasn't expecting that increase of weight to affect him at all. I thought he would use a little bit more physicality than what I saw from the highlights. It seemed like he was using just really decent boxing, footwork, tactics, southpaw advantages. I didn't really see much like head-on physical headbutt to headbutt, or excuse me, like shoulder to shoulder, pushing each other around. I was kind of maybe expecting to see that a little bit out of him, but he just kind of outboxed him.
Well, I think there was flashes of that, but I think what they'd established was that punching in volume was definitely the way to beat Canelo. It's certainly at this stage of his career. I've said a lot of times over the past 4 or 5 years with Canelo, he starts way too slow. And in fact, on my blog, on my website, I spoke about this exact thing. He starts slow and he throws way too many single shots. There's nowhere near a high enough output from him. And when he does punch, he looks for big singles and then follow up with multiple counters to the counter rather than attacking in any volume. Canelo pre-Gennady Golovkin, which is where I attribute the change in his style to, before the first two Gennady Golovkin fights, he used to punch in a lot more volume. He would counter with twos and threes. He would counter to the body head. Now it looks like he just relies on sheer brute force and the kind of relentless pressure to the body to slow guys down so that he can stop them late in fights.
It seems that way. I knew from Bud's past, his pressure, his ability to let his hands go. I kind of figured that he would have a nice combo game, a lot of punches. I What do you think of Canelo saying that his body was sort of failing him, or at least he was alluding to that? Not that it was failing him, but it just wasn't responding the way that he wanted it to. I didn't really see him doing anything that much different or that he was that much slower. you pointed this out that Canelo doesn't really cut the ring very well. And it's also kind of funny that in the pre-fight conferences and stuff, he would kind of say, maybe you're going to run from me. Bud said, I'm going to run upside your head, stuff like that. But it was funny to hear that, knowing that Canelo and his team probably knew ahead of time, look, this guy is definitely going to stick and move. He's going to throw the combos at you. So it's just interesting to me. They didn't really seem to have an effective game plan for that. One little thing here too, and I want your remark on this. Uh, Canelo said that Terrence's style was very difficult to deal with. And I think he's right. I think Canelo realized that he was fighting someone who's going to go down as one of the greatest boxers of all time.
Well, on the Canelo thing, I think he's never shut the ring off well. I think what he does is he holds the center and he does that deliberately. I think that's a plan because what that does in a lot of judges' eyes is it's indicative of control. It means you're in charge. You know, if people are backing away from you, it looks like you're applying pressure. And really, he doesn't apply great pressure anymore. Once upon a time, he did. But you know, this fight played out similarly to the Floyd Mayweather fight in that Crawford didn't move fast. He didn't run. He didn't rush. He just picked a shot, moved, picked two or three more shots, and then moved. And he was only ever 6 inches out of range. When he was out of range, he stayed mobile, forcing Canelo to follow him, follow him, follow him, and then he picked the shot. Follow him, follow him, follow him, pick two shots, follow him, follow him, follow him, counter the counter. And it worked throughout the fight. And then any time Canelo got into exchange, Crawford just threw a short, sharp 2 or 3 punch combination, disrupted the flow. They didn't need to be massive shots. They just needed to break the rhythm of Canelo and be offbeat. And then with regards to that last bit, I think Crawford, and I've been saying this for years. It's not this is one of the main reasons that I've always been a big Bud Crawford fan. Terence Crawford is the most, without question, the most adaptable fighter in the world of elite boxing. And no matter what style he's confronted by, he adapts and overcomes it. And I would attribute that to his skill on one hand and also to his coaching staff and their rigorous studying of the fighters that they're competing with. I mean, I believe I'm not 100% sure it was him, but I believe I saw in an interview that he doesn't watch much of the film. Bomac does the studying and then he just tells him what to do in camp, and that's that. He just follows the plan and then enacts it on fight night, which is incredible and obviously has worked very well.
There's a brilliance to that because it takes a lot of the thinking away from the person who shouldn't really be doing that much thinking. You put too much strategy and all that stuff behind what you're going in there. Because really, at the end of the day, it's a little bit simple. You guys are gonna try to punch each other in the face and not get hit as a result. So to make it too complicated and say study every little movement and try to come up with every little pattern, they have this trust in this relationship between them where Bud can say, "Hey, what should I do?" And when he gives them the game plan, he's like, "Yep," and just does it. I think that's kind of brilliant.
Well, there's an element of the creation of trust in success, I guess. You know, it's how many times has Bomac told him what to do and it's worked perfectly. You know, you can't doubt a guy who hasn't ever failed you. Um, and you know, the other great thing about Terence Crawford is he's um, he's humble and he's not, and I don't just mean that in the sense of his persona. I mean he's humble in his learning and in his own attitude to his own ability. He's supremely confident, not arrogant. He's supremely confident, and because he's also humble about that, he knows that he can't just go out there and do whatever he wants and he's going to win. You know, he takes every fighter seriously, every opponent deadly seriously, and he puts the work in he needs to put in to achieve the end that he needs to achieve.
He has a mentality and a sheer confidence that I admire. I think it's very, very impressive. I don't know. I'm sure it has a lot to do with why he is so successful. You can give the kind of skills he has to somebody, but if they don't have that mentality and that heart, that confidence, that composure, I think that's more than half of his game. Just he knows he is that good. Yeah, and he doesn't have to freak out. I've never seen Bud out of composure.
I
really.
think the only time I've ever seen him look even remotely disruptive was when he was in with I can't say the guy's name again, Kavialoskas, and he got hurt. He got hurt with a couple of shots, and he looked a bit shook. But other than that, I've never seen him.
Might
I've
that have
never
been
seen
the
him.
guy that he said had more power than Canelo? He said, I fought someone who punched harder than Canelo and
Perhaps I don't
I
know.
mentioned him. Maybe, yeah.
Again, this is the thing with Canelo's style, though. Canelo's style is predicated on the fact that he's going to get to your body. Now, very early on in that fight, when Canelo was throwing left hooks to the body, Bud was catching and picking the uppercut of the same hand, or catching and picking the straight shot of the same hand, which essentially meant that Canelo could never set to throw that shot. He could never set to throw it. And when he did set, he would get hit. And if you watch that fight back from round one onwards, it happens throughout the fight. Every time Canelo goes to put his foot somewhere to land that left hook, it's disrupted, either with a change of direction, with a punch, or with some sort of defensive mechanism. And again, you can attribute it to the fighter, and I'm not in any way denigrating what Terence Crawford is capable of. You can attribute it to the fighter, but the fighter's attributing it to his coach. He's saying himself, that Bomac comes up with a game plan and he follows it, and that's and as you said, and something that you said, which is very, very true, is that the fighter should be able to trust the coach to come up with the game plan and invest themselves wholeheartedly in enacting that game plan. Because if you can't do that, then you're either with the wrong coach or you're not humble enough yourself. And
Yeah.
Crawford is exactly what he needs to be.
I like that, man. I've seen a couple of controversies, some weird stuff. I saw something going viral where somebody was complaining about Crawford's gloves. I've never quite understand that. So I know this is a little bit of a departure from it, but is there some sort of difference between commercial gloves that a hobbyist might buy and use for their bag work as opposed to the gloves that are checked by both corners to assure that they're okay? As they somebody was complaining that Terrence's gloves could open quite wide, and I didn't see that myself. I just saw him having like a rigid open hand, which helps catch a little bit better and block a little bit better. I didn't see anything that looked out of play, but what would you have to say to that? I know it's a little silly.
I mean, that it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. There was no advantage to his shots. It wasn't as if he was. uh, for example, look at what happened when Margarito and Cotto fought for the first time, and there was clear cheating. Cotto's face looked like he was the Elephant Man, and that happens, and it's the same with Wilder and Fury in the first fight. With Fury with having the open glove, you get a lot of cuts and a lot of abrasions. So you can see that in guys, but Canelo didn't look like that. There was nothing. There was nothing about Canelo's face that indicated Crawford was doing anything untoward. Um, and look back at the punches. You can see him in slow mo. They're all landing with the knuckles. He's not doing anything suspicious. As you say, open hand, greater surface area gives you more ability to and more capacity to defend, which is complete common sense.
That's what I wanted to say. Sometimes I'm like, let me, and I just let it go. Yeah. All right. So, Inoue's fight, please tell me, what did you see? What were you impressed by?
I'll be honest with you, for me, it was one of his least impressive performances. I don't know whether that was because Akhmadaliev was less impressive than I hoped he'd be, perhaps. I don't think it is Inouye looked good. He looked the same as he always looks. He looked very organized. He picked beautiful counters. He walked him onto shots. He threw very effective combinations. But Akhmadaliev just didn't really box like he wanted to go out there and destroy him. And there wasn't any real urgency about his work till the very end. I think he caught him with a few shots. And I'll be honest with you that the 1-2 of Inoue was sublime.
Mhm.
Aside from that, there wasn't a lot that blew my mind. I'm a massive Naoya Inoue fan. I love watching him. I study him. And there's nothing wrong with his performance per se. It just wasn't, and I attribute that to Akhmadaliev not really doing a lot, and not because he wasn't opening himself up. There wasn't a lot for Inoue to capitalize on, so he just kept it tight, kept it compact, and won the fight. And you can't ask for a lot more than that. Akhmadaliev was the guy that Eddie Hearn was claiming would be the man to destroy Inoue, and that's why they were avoiding him. And yeah, yeah, as we saw, it just doesn't happen.
That's interesting. So it must have played out more of like a high intensity spar. I noticed on that card that there were on the undercard at least that there were they seemed to be, I'm not talking about the promoter, but some weird matchups where you had some people with fresh records versus people with mostly losing records, and I was kind of just a little questionable with that. I know that boxing has that habit of padding records a little bit for their fighters to get them going, but it was a little obvious that night on the undercard, and I was like, "Ah,
Well, I would
well,
imagine what's happened is they've had other fights planned, they've fallen through, and then a lot of the fights that would have been untelevised undercard fights would then have been just pushed up. That's generally what happens. I mean, those fights happen on every single show. You just don't see them because they don't put them on the card. So yeah, I didn't watch the undercard. I wasn't really interested in. I just watched the main event.
all
Um,
right." So I was gonna ask, what do you see next for Bud? What do you see next for Canelo?
Honestly, I think Canelo should retire. And I don't think he should retire because he's lost the plot completely. I just don't see the point in him now ruining his legacy, by yeah, I mean the potential for damage, but also just he'll end up losing to guys that 5 years ago even would never have been fit enough to lace up his boots. Is
They don't
um
deserve it. Yeah,
he it's the fact that he struggled with William Skull, for example, sort of should really have told everybody everything they needed to know. He's he's not the man he was, and that's not because he hasn't got the skill set. I think it's just the wear and tear of being a professional boxer from 15 years old, and also being at the absolute pinnacle of the sport since he was 20 years old. Like everyone forgets that, he was boxing on the undercard of Mayweather when he was, like I say, 20 years old against Miguel Cotto's brother, and from then on he was literally at the pinnacle of the sport, top 10 pound for pound that entire time, which is insane, an unbelievable achievement.
literally one of the best again that will ever do it. And I think maybe he had some realization with that too. Like I said, he made the mention, he was like, well, my body just didn't seem to do what I wanted it to do. Maybe he's got that in his mind too, where he's,
Well, I would
what does
hope
he have
so.
to prove at this point? You've done it, man. Like
Well,
even I'm a huge Canelo fan. Like it's hard to watch. It wasn't a fun thing to cheer for either
no,
one,
I agree. His
so
his kind of contentedness to lose as well should tell you something, really. You almost always know when a guy's kind of feeling like they're at the end when they don't mind losing. And
and he was like,
yeah, I lost. It is what it is. He was the better man on the night, and whilst I agree that that is the right approach, it's also the way that you say it. It's not just he was the better man on the night. Next time I'll get him. It was like, yeah, he was the better man on the night. This didn't happen. This didn't happen, and then and I think it's just a way of speaking that kind of tells
it's
you
like
he either knows he's past it or he's heading that way.
the you can either have one or the other. You can either have the icy stoicism that comes with humility or the fiery contention that comes with like that competitive drive. So like that response, you're right, it tells you a lot. When he's like, "Hey man, I did what I could, better man, better night." That says, he's at the end. I'm a mature man in this. I can give this man his props and his flowers. There was no contention. Oh, we did it. I think I won. Nothing like that. Like I get what you're
Well,
saying.
I'm not sure that you necessarily have to be arguing it to still have that, but it's more the attitude with which you say the better man won on the night. It's clear you can say the better man won on the night, but next time the better man won on the night, I want a rematch. The better man won on the night, we'll do it again. There's none of that. It hasn't been like an immediate. I need an immediate rematch. Let's fight again in 6 months. Do you
Uh,
know what I mean? It's more about like it's almost like he's just accepted the loss as a loss, and he doesn't have any
I
interest in
see
running it
that.
back.
Now, I saw some people discussing what requirements would need to be met in order to uh procure a like interest for a rematch, but having that in mind, that makes me think, he didn't really say, yeah, let's do this again. Think I saw something. Oh, we get it again. I've got him next time. Yeah, it was like, good man, good job.
exactly.
On
Which
to my next thing.
is great for the sport because obviously you want that sportsmanship, but also from a personal perspective, it makes me think that he sort of knows. And he's cashed out with a lot of money. He's got two more fights. I think that Turkey Al Sheikh said. I think he's got two more fights signed with Riyadh season. Hopefully, they pick reasonably manageable opponents for him. He deserves it. He deserves to get a couple of wins and go out on the top of the tree. Because listen, everybody's moaned about that guy for his entire career, but look at the list of people he's boxed. Who's missing? Granted, a couple of people could have been fought a little bit earlier, but I mean nobody's perfect, and historically that's happened again and again. It happened with Leonard and various people. It happened with Duran. It's happened with Ali. It happened all of these people, and everyone always has a reason to complain. But when people look back in 50 years' time and they see the record of Saul Canelo Alvarez, they'll put him down as one of the probably 20 best fighters in history, without a
Okay.
doubt. You don't have a record like he's got without being considered for that.
That's a good footnote there. What's next for Bud? What's next for Inoue?
For me, I think Bud should dump all the titles, go down to 160 and try and do it again.
All
I think he
right.
should try and do it again. He should try and wrap all up at 160 and try and become undisputed four weight, and very much be in the argument for the top three to ever do it. At that point, you can't argue. He'd have to tie up some very challenging fights. Um, Erislandy Lara being one of them, which is the man that everybody said could have or did beat Canelo, and was the one that gave the blueprint for beating Canelo. So Bud takes that win, then you've got another massive victory. Again, even though it's a late in his career Lara, it's still a victory. Um, and I'd love to see that. I really don't think he should go up in weight anymore. That's not to say he didn't carry his frame well, but I just don't see the point. Um, in the same way that I didn't really see the point of Canelo doing it. I don't think it added anything to his career, really. Not in the current. Like I say, looking back in 50 years, people go, "Oh, he beat Sergey Kovalev," which is really impressive. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's the best bet for Bud. And then maybe have a look at competing with the likes of Jaron Ennis or Virgil Ortiz as they're moving up.
It seems like those lower weight classes could use the attention as well. The attention that Canelo brought to the, super middleweight and all that for the time that he's been there has been favorable for those guys.
Oh, massive. I mean,
Yeah,
look at it this way. Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant,
Caleb.
um,
Yeah,
all of them guys, they never, ever, ever would have dreamed of making anywhere near the money they made from that fight in their whole career without him. So, he's done a lot of boxers and a lot of people in boxing a massive favor by existing and by being the man and the fighter that he was.
did a lot for
Bud
this.
included, I might add.
In a way, a fight was announced with him just recently versus an Alan Picasso. What are your thoughts on that?
I honestly, I've got no idea. I don't know the guy
Yeah,
at all. I'm not going to pretend I do. I haven't looked at him. I will look at him. I don't know what his record is. Have you got access to that there? I don't know.
let me
Um,
just
yeah, have a look. I don't know what his record is.
topic for another podcast.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, exactly. We put that one in the
Awesome.
locker. Um, but again, he's. I think now. I think he's almost tied up
32
the
0 and
division.
1.
Say again.
30, 32 0 and 1 for Picasso.
And how many stoppages in that 32?
17.
17.
17. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
he's not gonna beat Inoue. Um, it yeah, no, I don't. The thing with Inoue is you can't outbox him because he's too active. It's very much like trying to outbox Manny Pacquiao in the welterweight division. The welterweights couldn't outbox him because they couldn't throw as many punches as him. So you either have to be more defensively minded and pick counters, a la Floyd Mayweather against Pacquiao, or you have to be like um, uh, one man one Marquez, and you have to punch through their punches and destroy them, like Marquez did in the Pacquiao fourth fight. And I think that's going to be the only way that we see Inoue get beaten. Much the same as we saw in that fight with Lewis Neri when he got dropped early on in the fight, punching through his shots. Obviously, he still then went on to win because he's exceptional. But exceptional fighters do that. That's part of it. So yeah, I'd like to see him tie up another division and then try and keep moving up, take himself to the limit and see where he goes.
Very cool. Very
Do
cool.
you have anything else that we want to talk about? Just general boxing. I'd like to hear more about the gym. What's going on there with your
Oh,
new move?
Yeah, I'm upgrading my location. I'm getting a boxing ring, which is kind of a prerequisite for a boxing club to call themselves a boxing club. So, we've done a great job as a little fight team without it, learning just basic combinations and movement, but it's about time for us to learn ring control and have some fun with that. And I think it's gonna level us up and it's gonna be fun. The new location is kind of an underground spot, brick walls, just a beautiful spot. We're gonna make it, well, what we can. Put a boxing ring in there and just see what kind of happens. See if it grows.
Well, this is something that I've learned over the years in business, that the quality of a boxing gym is all about the quality of the coaches and the people that are there. And you invest everything you have into it and you get everything back. So, I've got absolutely no doubt they will go very well. And you've shown me some bits that are going in there, and it looks like it's going to be a fantastic facility.
Appreciate it. Yeah. How are things with you over there? I saw you've been posting Countryside Clash, your boxing event that went on. How was that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. The videos are going really well. The event went well. We had 9 bouts in the end, which was good. We had everything went well except for one fight was a late pullout, so we had a stand in um, was okay. The guy just had to keep it nice and light because it was a skills bout and exhibition. Um, and now we're planning the next show, which is on the 22nd of November. It will be the Boxing Lockers birthday bash because it is my birthday. So we're having a big show on in another local town where the gym is Hook, and which is a great name for a boxing town. Um, and that should go well. I'm hoping to have 15 guys on that, so that'll be a real step up. I've got a lot of guys in the gym. We're busy at the moment, so it's going very well, and everybody's working real hard to get themselves ready to box. So all good, mate. Everything's good here. Do you have any more boxing questions or anything technical or anything you want to talk about before we close it out?
Uh, okay. The value of volume punching. I know because it just popped into my head as we were just discussing it. I uh I find that you can take somebody and you can spend a lot of time teaching them with foundational techniques and stuff like that, and they can grasp it and everything. But if they don't have the sheer cardio and conditioning to be able to tolerate high volume and stuff like that, you can essentially gas the technique out of somebody. One of the most important things we focus on here at the gym is once I've established your foundation, we really push conditioning really, really hard. And I've seen my guys win fights although very sloppily with very little what you would equate to technique, they won on sheer heart and volume, just putting punches out there in front of the other person's punches, into the other person's punches, over top of them, and straight into them. Just the desire to keep punching until the other person put their hands up. And then finding the pockets in that. What would you say to that? Is there value? I know, like I say it like this: we're boxers. Your job is to punch. If you get tired after punching just a little bit, that's like having somebody coming to my house and paying them to do a job. And after like 20, 30 seconds, they're like, oh, I don't want to do
Exactly,
this anymore. It's like, come
exactly.
on. That's what we do.
Well, from a conditioning perspective, I would say that in almost every okay, let's be a little bit more realistic about this. Say in 90 out of every 100 amateur bouts, and in 3 round bouts, in 90 out of those 100, the fitter individual will win.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, oh, regardless of skill, just the
regardless,
person who has
well,
worked the hardest.
presuming skill level is similar, not the same, but similar.
We're not
I
talking like a retired pro that's taken a
no,
couple of weeks off. Yeah.
exactly. I've seen guys that are much worse boxers come through and destroy box. We spoke about this with the greatest comebacks. I said about uh, Antonio DeMarco coming back against Jorge Linares, but I've seen that in amateurs as well. And in 3 rounds, it's actually easier to do because what you can do is you can lay it all out on the line and
Just
just go
go. You're
crazy,
not gonna die.
just throw
You can't.
punches.
Like,
Exactly,
unless you've got some
exactly.
prerequisite heart condition, which we would have known about, there's no way. I put it like this. Once you get to that point where your body's telling you, "Oh, give up, please, give in," it can't get worse than that. And
Yeah.
if we just get okay with that, you just keep
But
pushing,
also,
man.
the other thing to remember is it's not your body saying that. It's your brain saying that. It's not your body. Your body doesn't care. Your body will do what it's told to do until it literally. Here's the difference. Where most people give up is when their brain tells them they need to give up. Where the greatest give up is when they can't do anything else. And there's a big difference. And it's a case of understanding that discomfort, that pain, that tiredness, that weakness is all in your head. Even if you are exhausted, you're capable of so much. How many times have you seen survival stories where guys have been out in the desert and they haven't eaten for 20 days and they haven't drunk water for 10 days and they can barely breathe, and then all of a sudden they're alive, and people go, "Oh, how's he done that? That's crazy," because that's everything, and that's true in boxing, and that's again we can throw that back to the Crawford and Canelo fight. Who was the fitter, more active, busier guy going into the end of the fight? Crawford, and he had it looked like what he had endless amounts of volume in the tank. He could have just kept going. I think he could have boxed 15 rounds comfortably and probably would have stopped Canelo if he had.
I think you saw it wearing on Canelo. I haven't seen that much. You kind of saw the moments where Canelo was wearing his frustration
100%.
visibly. It's like, man, how
100%.
did that? I wouldn't have gotten hit with that. Whatever he was thinking,
It
it was
definitely had
clear
the
that his mind was not where it needed to be.
he definitely had an air of the Roberto Duran no mas sort of in his eyes there. I think again, if that had been a 15 round fight and the pace had kept picking up, I think you never know what goes through a guy's head, especially that late on in his career. Now, I'm not suggesting that would have happened, just that you can see that kind of attitude. But yeah, I mean, volume is an interesting thing because volume in and of itself has almost no real value. Volume needs to be informed, but that doesn't mean it can't be done with intensity, with vigor. Um, what it's all about is learning to have dexterity with your shot selection. So I need to be able to throw uppercut, hook, overhand, hook to the body, hook to the head, uppercut, two straight shots. That's what it's really about. And then the ability to integrate getting your head off the center line and moving your head with those shots. And it's very hard to beat a guy that does that. Rest in peace to the now sadly lost and one of my all-time favorite boxers, Ricky Hatton. I'm very sad, but Ricky Hatton is a really good example of exactly that. Watch Ricky Hatton. People obsess over the Pacquiao and the Mayweather fights. You're talking about two of the best boxers of the era. He boxed a lot of incredible world-class fighters, and the way he worked volume. I mean, look at what he did to Kostya. Volume, physicality, shot selection, height shifts, exceptional. And it's hard to beat a guy that does that because even if you hurt them, even if you land three or four good shots, you're getting hit with 20. You can't win rounds.
It's so much to have to keep track of. And as I said earlier in this very same episode, it's actually a very simple thing. Like what we're doing, there's a few movements, a few punches, and it is very simple. So when somebody is occupying all of your available processing ability with their own actions, you're
And
you
and
lose.
that again, tying it back in, is exactly what Crawford did to Canelo. Canelo couldn't pick the second and third shots because he'd already been hit. Every time he tried to, he got hit or he got caught out of position. And again, volume doesn't have to be about just throwing punches and punches and punches. You can be voluminous at the right time. If somebody throws a shot, they land a jab at me, and I throw six shots and four of them land. Who's won the exchange? You don't always have to be leading. You don't always have to be pressing, but volume is essential, especially at any 3 round fight level. Any 3 round fight, you can't hope to pace yourself over 3 rounds. It's just a ludicrous concept.
You
You've
just
got to be
go.
out there to outwork and dominate the other person. You can't leave anything to the chance. You can't.
I know it sounds so silly, but I learned this from a wrestler. Guy came into our jujitsu gym one time way back when and just dominated everybody, even the higher belts. And he was just a good old boy. And I ended up working with him and picked his brain. I said, that time you came in, you just mollywopped everyone. He was like, yeah. I said, how did you do that? Because we train regularly and you don't. And he's like, yeah, I just decided you weren't going to beat me. And I was like, Explain. And he's like, yeah. So back in wrestling, I learned that in order to win, I had to decide that I wasn't going to lose. There wasn't a thing you were going to do, a human being to human being. I will not move backwards. I will not give up. I'm going to beat you no matter what. When my foot touches that mat, I'm going to win. Thank you, Brandon. Um, uh, I instill that in my guys. I'm like, guys, listen, like just make that decision. And when they come back and I can tell that they've made the decision to lose, it's very easy for me to point that out and say, you did decide to stop, didn't you? And they go, yeah. And I go, well, now go win. Like, and it's like this confidence and decision. They're like, if it's a sprint, of course, if there were 12, 14 round, whatever, it'd be a totally different thing. It would kind of be a burst of that selectively with more precise, like I said, you got a spotter going a little up, a little down, a little ref right there. Bam. That's when you put it on. But for a 3 round fight,
100%.
go.
Yeah.
Just I win, I win, I
Well,
win,
the
go.
the amateur world championships were just on in Liverpool, and you see that a lot. That now even the guys that were boxing, moving, countering, they're busy. There's no idle time because you've got either 1.5, 2 or 3 minutes. You've got to win. You've got to want to win, and you have to be demonstrably trying to win because otherwise, say I'm sat there judging a fight and I see one guy giving everything he's got to win, and the other guy pot shotting but not really dominating. He may not be getting hit a lot, but he's not dominating. Now you can pot shot and dominate, but you have to be busy to do it because otherwise, I've succeeded with 6 good shots, but the other guy's throwing 400. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like
How can you can't conflate the two things. One
like a
one person
shotgun
deserves the
versus a
victory.
sniper. Yeah.
And
It's a
they can
shotgun
land
versus a
1% of that and they deserve the victory, 10%, whatever.
So like shotgun versus sniper in close quarters. Like the sniper needs that distance and that analyzation. And like you said, if they can maintain that distance with activity, with head movement, and then slam it in, good. There we go. But if you can't and you let that shotgun get close, he'll shoot 20 pellets and only 3 of them need to land. But
Exactly.
that's three and
Very
they
good
hurt.
analogy for it.
Yeah,
That's
and it
exactly right.
adds up. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think also as much as skill is essential, and you know me, I'm a massive advocate of skill and fundamental technique. The ability to do more than the other person is also key, as it is in every other sport. That a sport doesn't exist where you have to do less to win. It just doesn't exist. There's not a sport. You have to do more in every single sport. You have to be able to jump higher, run faster, kick further, sprint more, pass better, whatever it is. It
And
has to be more.
as much as we want to get them to do that, like you gotta trust us. Like if we're your coach and we tell you you can do it, just do it. Like and unlock that for us so we can get that out of you.
And also that's where guys that have that ability succeed so well. Sadly, we got to cut it short, Shane. We've only got about 45 seconds left. So, fantastic conversation as always. I hope everybody enjoys the video. Don't forget to check out Shane's channels and also mine, which are there. And we'll see you for the next episode, and we'll try and be a little bit more frequent over the next couple of weeks. All
Thank you
right.
guys.
All good. Cheers, everybody, for tuning in. And thanks to Shane. Take care, guys.